All right, NFL draft kicking off on Thursday, so we're going to roll out something that we've turned into a nice tradition here. We go through the whole 32 picks. It takes a little bit of time, but luckily the Jaguars are at 5. So, number 1 overall, we started off with Cam Ward. I think I had the first pick. Justin, were you number 2?
No,
I
think
was
Kyle.
2.
All right, Kyle.
I mean, I went Travis Hunter. You can't go wrong. Browns GM said he was a unicorn. I don't see why they would go any other direction.
All right, Alessandra, you're the one that's got some splaining to do.
I wanted to go for chaos for my New York Giants. Listen, I heard a rumor is it's split between Abdul Carter and Shadir Sanders. Of course, Sanders doesn't have a great character traits, apparently. But I do think that he can be the quarterback of the future. I know who they brought in, Russell and Jameson, free agency. Yep. But I think Sanders is just really young. He's a young, immature kid. He can learn from Russell Wilson, and then he can be a top quarterback.
Well, there you go.
My hometown Giants.
I think that threw our whole mock draft into disarray. I think he's falling further back.
It did, and then Justin, you got 4, and you didn't help it any.
Yeah, and Will Campbell. I mean,
you went chalk as if, yeah.
Of course. I mean, chalk and Will Campbell to the Patriots is kind of a tale as old as time during this mock draft season. Short arms, who cares? He's going number 4 to
Trent Baalke cares.
That's right. Trent Baalke would take. He would pass on him.
So I had 5 on the clock for the Jaguars. This one was. This ain't happening. Abdul Carter was on the board. I took Abdul Carter, but there is absolutely 0 chance that tomorrow night we look up and Abdul Carter is on the board for the Jaguars, sitting at 5. Do they trade up? I don't think so. More than likely, they're trading back. So I don't think they make the pick. Even if Abdul Carter's on the board, I think they're trying to move back and do something different.
Would you be happy with Abdul?
Yes. I would run the pick in.
Yeah, me, as the Giants, I helped you guys out. So I think what I did by taking Sanders is actually philanthropic.
Well, you and Justin both helped, and it kind of gave me a headache because you took Sanders and then he passed on Carter for Will Campbell, which I'm just like, I don't know what's happening anymore.
Patriots need some offensive line help.
They also could use any help, which Abdul Carter would go under the any help category. Bad teams need good players.
He would, yeah. Will Campbell's mine, Abdul Carter. I would love Abdul Carter in Jacksonville.
All right, right behind that, Kyle goes Ashton Genty. Then we got Tatoria McMillan flying off the board. Jahdae Barron. Matthew Golden ends up in New Orleans with the Saints. Walter Nolan, top 10 player there, goes to Chicago. Mimbu ends up in San Francisco. Calvin Banks Jr., guy we've talked a little bit about, going to Dallas at 12. Let's roll on to 13 here, guys. So at 13, that's where Mason Graham finally stops the slide. I was actually Miami there and get Mason Graham to stay in the state of Florida, just not maybe where a lot of people had him going. Yeah, that's the strange part we've talked about with this draft a lot, is that players can, once the Jaguars kind of get to 5, you either go at 5 or you could slide way down.
And not a lot of variance between players, thought to be players between that 5 and 20. You're going to get a very comparable player in that span.
Kyle?
I went Tyler Warren to the Colts. It gives me a little Dallas Clark vibes. I heard Justin talk about him on the podcast. So if he's there, that's definitely someone I think they'll be looking at.
All right, Mike Green.
The Falcons need defensive help.
That's fair enough. Look, enough said. All right, Kenneth Grant, Justin.
Yeah, the Cardinals, kind of an outlier. You don't know what they're going to do, but defensive help is they've addressed defensive free agency, and I think they continue to do that in the draft. Kenneth Grant of Michigan going there.
All right, Jalen Walker flies off the board to Cincinnati. That's another guy that the Jaguars have kind of been connected to along the way. We've got Donovan Ezeraku going to Seattle, Malachi Starks, Amarion Hampton, Jalen Milroe. Yeah, I did that one. I went with the Alabama high-end quarterback. I know Alessandra approves of that one.
I do.
So, Colston Loveland, Justin, there you go at 22. Emeka Ibuka. I think this is the range where we kind of should start looking, because if I was you, I'd tune into the whole first round on Thursday night, because I do think the Jaguars are a candidate to kind of move back in late. So somewhere around 20, between 20 and 32, a lot of these guys are going to see their names coming off the board, but the team, even though it's kind of still connected there, might maybe we switch that logo to a little bit closer to home, right?
Yeah,
maybe we'll take a wide receiver. I put Ibuka to the Packers.
Yeah, and Packers haven't drafted a first-round receiver in
forever,
like a generation.
So maybe the number's right, and it's just the wrong logo right now.
And Will Johnson going, he's number 2 cornerback off the board to Minnesota. Grant Udinski's old stomping ground.
There you go. Will Johnson, another one that kind of slid down some boards. But here's another kind of sweet spot where there's a handful of really good players that would also still make sense for the Jaguars. So we got Josh Simmons, Trey Amos, Jahad Campbell, James Pierce, Gray Zabel, Nick Scorton, Josh Connerly, and Mikael Williams all going off the board. These guys, I'd say 29 right there. Gray Zabel would look pretty good in a Jaguars jersey.
I agree. I mean, Texans, they're going to go offensive line with their issues, and I think Jags are a candidate to trade back up into this latter half of the first round like they did with Devin Lloyd.
One guy, I don't think Mikael Williams slides this far, though. I just can't see him.
He fits in
a
Philly.
beast.
He fits in Philly.
This kid's a beast.
He fits in Philly.
He does. All they do is draft
All
Georgia
they do
Bulldogs.
is get
So
Bulldogs.
actually, that does fit pretty well for them if it worked out that way. Don't think it will, but I guess we'll see what happens. So we kind of flew through all 32 picks here. A little bit strange that we end up with Abdul Carter at 5. I don't think that'll work out. All right, who do you think the Jaguars get first round?
I think running back Ashton Genty at number 5.
Ashton Genty.
Listen, I'm getting off the Mason Graham bandwagon.
Okay, who you got?
Maybe I'll go Ashton Genty with you guys, but I'm hoping Abdul Carter slides down.
Okay, she's hopeful that it works out.
I would like that too.
All right, not happening.
I will say I wasn't on the Genty train. I'm back on it, but also I'm fine trading back, maybe getting McMillan, a wide receiver, kind of later in that.
I've sold
back too, actually.
I've sold Kyle and Ashton Genty. I've been banging.
He's been banging the
Genty
drum.
That
for
would
at
be
least 2
exciting.
months now.
We need playmakers.
That's right, he is that.
That's a playmaker.
I think the move back is going to be what
agree.
happens. It's going to be a trade down. It's going to be a trade down. I think Kelvin Banks and maybe, crazy enough, maybe Tet McMillan could be in the conversation.
Playmaker, I'd like to see it.
Either a wide receiver or an offensive lineman. I think they go offense in the first round.
If they trade down, what do they get?
I think you
Not
got to
only
get.
what player, but what other picks?
Depends on where you
Well,
go.
it depends on how far you go. So let's say they go to 10 for Chicago based on the point chart. Maybe you get a second round. The goal is to stack up as many top 100 picks as you can in this year's
Yeah, you
draft.
could use that and go back into the end of the first
And
round.
there you go.
That's what I would like to see the most.
And I think that's the move that happened. You trade down, you collect some picks, and then you use those to package your way back up for another first round. You need a lot of players, but you don't necessarily need them all coming from day 3.
Yeah.
You need as many guys from day 1 and 2 as you possibly can get.
When you look at the roster now, they have 59 on the roster, so you're
59.
talking at least 31.
It might be 60 now. Cole
60,
Van
okay.
Lanen signed his tender this week, so,
So
it might be up to
30.
60.
You're talking 30 players, undrafted free
That's a
agents, draft
huge
picks.
undrafted
That
free
is an
agent class.
obscene number of newcomers coming in, first-year guys coming in, but that's what they look like now.
That's what the roster stands at. You can have 90 when you go to training camp, just to give you an idea how much, and they only have 10 draft picks. So
A full overhaul.
yeah,
Yes.
it is going to be a
That's what we're
very
looking
different
at.
team. So we'll see what happens. Ultimately, I don't even think we can agree on what the Jaguars are going to do, but we don't have to wait much longer. Thursday night, we're going to have our News4JAX draft special. We'll be live over at Lemon Bar. Me and Alessandro will be there. Justin will be at the MEC. He'll be talking with ESPN's Mike Duraco during our show. So we're going to have a really good draft show coming your way. When the draft starts at 8 o'clock, all you need to do is head over to News4JAX.com or open the News4JAX Plus app. Don't worry about the other guys. They're talking about the other teams. We're talking about the Jaguars. So we'll count you down until the Jags are on the clock, and then give you some instant reaction once the pick is officially in, and then have coverage right here on News4JAX all throughout the rest of the NFL draft.